The book of Daniel, chapter 1, verse 1. Daniel 1 and 1. Daniel, the first chapter and the first verse. Daniel taken to Babylon. Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, came to Jerusalem and surrounded it with his army. This happened during the third year that Jehoiakim was king of Judah. The Lord allowed Nebuchadnezzar to defeat Jehoiakim, king of Judah. Nebuchadnezzar took all the dishes and other things from God's temple and carried them to Babylon. He put those things in the temple of his gods. Then King Nebuchadnezzar ordered Ashpenaz, the man in charge of his officials, to bring some of the boys into the palace to train them. He was to include boys from among the Israelites, from important Judean families, and from the royal family of Judah. King Nebuchadnezzar wanted only healthy boys who did not have any bruises, scars, or anything wrong with their bodies. He wanted handsome, smart young men who were able to learn things quickly and easily to serve in his palace. He told Ashpenaz to teach these young men the language and writings of the Chaldeans. Then Nebuchadnezzar gave the young men a certain amount of food and wine every day. This was the same kind of food that he ate. He wanted them to be trained for 3 years. After that, they would become servants of the king of Babylon. Among those young men were Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah from the tribe of Judah. Ashpenaz gave them Babylonian names. Daniel's name was Belteshazzar. Hananiah's name was Shadrach. Michael's name was Meshach, and Azariah's name was Abednego. Daniel did not want to eat the king's rich food and wine because it would make him unclean. So he asked Ashpenaz for permission not to make himself unclean in this way. God had caused Ashpenaz, the man in charge of the officials, to be kind and loyal to Daniel. But Ashpenaz told Daniel, "I'm afraid of my master, the king. He ordered me to give you this food and drink. If you don't eat this food, you'll begin to look weak and sick. You'll look worse than the other young men your age. The king will see this, and he will become angry with me. He might cut off my head, and it would be your fault." Then Daniel talked to the guard who had been put in charge of Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah by Ashpenaz. He said, "Please give us this test for 10 days. Don't give us anything but vegetables to eat and water to drink. Then after 10 days, compare us with the other young men who eat the king's food. See for yourself who looks healthier, and then decide how you want to treat us, as your servants." So the guard agreed to test Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah for 10 days. After 10 days, Daniel and his friends looked healthier than all the young men who had ate the king's food. So the guard continued to take away the king's special food and wine and to give only vegetables to Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. God gave these 4 young men the wisdom and ability to learn many kinds of writing and science. Daniel could also understand all kinds of visions and dreams. At the end of the 3 years of training, Ashpenaz brought all the young men to King Nebuchadnezzar. The king talked to them and found that none of the young men were as good as Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. So these 4 young men became the king's servants. Every time the king asked them about something important, they showed great wisdom and understanding. The king found they were 10 times better than all the magicians and wise men in his kingdom. So Daniel served the king until the first year that Cyrus was king. Daniel chapter 2, Nebuchadnezzar's dream. During Nebuchadnezzar's second year as king, he had dreams. They bothered him and he couldn't sleep. So the king called his wise men to come in. They used magic and watched the stars. They did this to try to interpret dreams and to learn what would happen in the future. The king wanted them to tell what he had dreamed, so they came in and stood in front of him. Then the king said to them, "I had a dream that bothers me. I want to know what it means." Then the Chaldeans answered the king. They spoke Aramaic and said, "King, live forever. Please tell your dream to us, your servants, and then we'll tell you what it means." Then King Nebuchadnezzar said to them, "No, you must tell me the dream and you must tell me what it means. If you don't, I will give an order for you to be cut into pieces. And I will order your horses to be destroyed until they're nothing but piles of dust and ashes. But if you tell me my dream and explain its meaning, I will give you gifts, rewards, and great honor. So tell me about my dream and what it means." Again, the wise men said to the king, "Please, sir, tell us about the dream, and we will tell you what it means." Then King Nebuchadnezzar answered, "I know that you are trying to get more time. You know what I meant, what I said, that I meant what I said. You know that you will be punished if you don't tell me about my dream. So if you all agreed to lie to me, you're hoping for more time so that I will forget what I want you to do. Now tell me the dream. If you can tell me the dream, I will know that you can tell me what it really means." The Chaldeans answered the king. They said, "There's not a man on earth who can do what the king is asking. No king has ever asked the wise men, the men who do magic or the Chaldeans, to do something like this. Not even the greatest and most powerful king has ever asked his wise men to do such a thing. The king is asking something that is too hard to do. Only the gods could tell the king his dream and what it means. but the gods don't live with people. When the king heard that, he became very angry. So he gave an order for all the wise men in Babylon to be killed. King Nebuchadnezzar's order to kill all the wise men was announced. The king's men were sent to look for Daniel and his friends to kill them. Arioch was the commander of the king's guards. He was going to kill the wise men of Babylon, but Daniel talked to him. Daniel spoke politely to Arioch and said, "Why did the king order such a severe punishment?" Then Arioch explained the whole story about the king's dream, and Daniel understood. When Daniel heard the story, he went to King Nebuchadnezzar. Daniel asked the king to give him some more time, then he would tell the king what the dream meant. So Daniel went to his house. He explained the whole story to his friends, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. Daniel asked his friends to pray to the God of heaven that God would be kind to them and help them understand this secret. Then Daniel and his friends would not be killed with the other wise men of Babylon. During the night, God explained the secret to Daniel in the vision. Then Daniel praised the God of heaven. He said, "Praise God's name forever and ever. Power and wisdom belong to him. He changes the times and seasons. He gives power to kings and he takes their power away. He gives wisdom to people so they become wise. He lets people learn things and become wise. He knows hidden secrets that are hard to understand. Light lives with him, so he knows what is in the dark and secret places. God of my answers, I thank you and praise you. You gave me wisdom and power. You told us what we asked for. You told us about the king's dream." Daniel tells what the dream means. Then Daniel went to Arioch, the man who King Nebuchadnezzar had chosen to kill the wise men of Babylon. Daniel said to Arioch, "Don't kill the wise men of Babylon. Take me to the king, and I will tell him what his dream means." So very quickly, Arioch took Daniel to the king. Arioch said to the king, "I found a man among the captives from Judah who can tell the king what his dream means." The king asked Daniel, Belteshazzar, a question. He said, "Are you able to tell me about my dream and what it means?" Daniel answered, "King Nebuchadnezzar, no wise man, man who does magic, and no Chaldean could tell the king the secret things he's asked about. But there is a God in heaven who tells secret things. God has given the king Nebuchadnezzar dreams to show him what will happen later. This was your dream, and this is what you saw while lying on your bed. King, as you were lying there on your bed, you began thinking about what might happen in the future. God can tell people about secret things. He has shown you what will happen in the future. God also told his secret to me, not because I have greater wisdom than other men, but so that you, king, may know what it means. In that way, you will understand what went through your mind. King, in your dream, I saw a large statue in front of you that was a very large and shining. It was very impressive. The head of the statue was made from pure gold. Its chest and arms were made from silver. The belly and upper part of the legs were made from bronze. The lower parts of the legs were made from iron. Its feet were partly iron and partly clay. While you were looking at the statue, you saw a rock that was cut loose, but not by human hands. Then the rock hit the statue on its feet of iron and clay and smashed them. Then the iron, the clay, the bronze, the silver, and the gold broke to pieces all at the same time. And all the pieces became like chaff on the threshing floor in the summertime. The wind blew them away, and there was nothing left. No one could tell that a statue had ever been there. Then the rock that hit the statue became a very large mountain and filled up the whole earth. That was your dream. Now we will tell the king what it means. King, you are the most important king. The God of heaven has given you a kingdom, power, strength, and glory. He has given you control, and you rule over people and the wild animals and the birds. Wherever they live, God has made you ruler over them all. King Nebuchadnezzar, you are that head of gold on the statue. Another kingdom will come after you, but it will not be as great as your kingdom. Next, the third kingdom will rule over the earth. That is the bronze part. Then there will be a fourth kingdom. That kingdom will be strong like iron, just as iron breaks things and smashes them to pieces. That fourth kingdom will break all the other kingdoms and smash them to pieces. You saw that the feet and toes of the statue were partly clay and partly iron. That means the fourth kingdom will be a divided kingdom. It will have some of the strength of iron in it, just as you saw the iron mixed with clay. The toes of the statue were partly iron and partly clay. So the fourth kingdom will be partly strong like iron and partly weak like clay. You saw the iron mixed with clay, but iron and clay don't completely mix together. In the same way, the people of the fourth kingdom will be a mixture. They will not be united as one people. During the time of the kings of the fourth kingdom, the God of heaven will set up another kingdom that will continue forever. It will never be destroyed, and it will be the kind of kingdom that cannot be passed on to another group of people. This kingdom will crush all the other kingdoms. It will bring them to an end, but that kingdom itself will continue forever. King Nebuchadnezzar, you saw a rock cut from a mountain, but no one cut that rock. That rock broke the iron, the bronze, the clay, the silver, and the gold to pieces. In this way, God showed you what will happen in the future. The dream is true, and you can trust this is what it means. Then King Nebuchadnezzar bowed down in front of Daniel to honor him. The king praised him. He gave an order that an offering and incense be given to honor Daniel. Then the king said to Daniel, I know for sure your God is the God over all gods and the Lord over all kings. He tells people about things they cannot know. I know this is true because you were able to tell these secret things to me. Then the king gave Daniel a very important job in his kingdom and gave him many expensive gifts. Nebuchadnezzar made Daniel rule over the whole province of Babylon and put him in charge of all the wise men of Babylon. Daniel asked the king to make Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego important officials over the province of Babylon. The king did as Daniel asked. Daniel himself became one of the important officials who was always near the king. Daniel 3, the idol of gold in the hot furnace. King Nebuchadnezzar had a gold idol made that was 60 cubits high and 6 cubits wide. Then he set the idol up on the plain of Dura in the province of Babylon, and he called the satraps, prefects, governors, advisors, treasurers, judges, rulers, and all the other officials in his kingdom to come together. He wanted all of them to come to the dedication ceremony for the idol. So all the men came and stood in front of that idol that King Nebuchadnezzar had set up. Then the man who makes announcements for the king spoke in a loud voice. All you people from many nations and languages and groups, listen to me. This is what you're commanded to do. You must bow down as soon as you hear the sound of all the musical instruments. When you hear the horns, flutes, lyres, sambucas, harps, bagpipes, what is a sambuca? And that sounds demonic. And all the other musical instruments, Lord, forgive me, you must worship the gold idol, a sambuca. King Nebuchadnezzar set his idol up. Whoever does not bow down and worship this gold idol, Lord Jesus, will immediately be thrown into a very hot furnace. I don't know why that tickled me so much. All right. So as soon as they heard the sound of the horns, flutes, lyres, sambucas, bagpipes, and all the other musical instruments, all my life, I've never heard of a sambuca. And all the other musical instruments, they bowed down and worshiped the gold idol. All the people, nations, and different language groups there worshiped the gold idol that King Nebuchadnezzar had set up. Then some of the Chaldeans came up to the king and began speaking against the people from Judah. They said, King, may you live forever. King, you gave a command. You said that everyone who hears the sounds of the horns, flutes, lyres, sambucas, harps, bagpipes, and all the other musical instruments must bow down and worship the gold idol. And you also said whoever does not bow down and worship the gold idol will be thrown into a very hot furnace. There are some Judeans who you made important officials in the, sounds like jealousy to me, in the province of Babylon that ignored your order, King. Their names are Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. They don't worship your gods, and they didn't bow down to worship the gold idol you set up. Quiz question, where's Daniel? All right, verse 13. Nebuchadnezzar became very angry. He called for Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, so they were brought to him, and Nebuchadnezzar said to them, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, is it true that you don't worship my gods? Is it true that you don't bow down and worship the gold idol I have set up? Now, when you hear the sound of the horns, flutes, lyres, sambucas, harps, bagpipes, and all the musical instruments, you must bow down and worship the gold idol. If you're ready to worship the idol I've made, that is good. But if you don't worship it, you'll be thrown very quickly into the hot furnace. Then no God will be able to save you from my power. Now, didn't you just say in the last chapter that God was powerful? This guy has problems upstairs. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego answered the king, Nebuchadnezzar, we don't need to explain these things to you. If you throw us into the hot furnace, the God we serve can save us rather. And if he wants to, he can save us from your power. But even if God does not save us, we want you to know, king, that we refuse to serve your gods. We will not worship the gold idol that you set up. Then Nebuchadnezzar became very angry with Shadrach and Meshach and Abednego. He gave an order for the oven to be heated 7 times hotter than it usually was. Then he commanded some of the strongest soldiers in his army to tie up Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. He told the soldiers to throw them into the hot furnace. That's a maniac. Nebuchadnezzar's crazy. So Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego were tied up and thrown into the hot furnace. They were wearing their robes, pants, cloth caps, and other clothes. The king was very angry when he gave the command, so the soldiers quickly made the furnace very hot. The fire was so hot that the flames killed the strong soldiers. They were killed when they went close to the fire to throw in Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego fell into the fire. They were tied up very tightly. Then King Nebuchadnezzar jumped to his feet. He was surprised, and he asked his advisors, we tied only 3 men, and we threw only 3 men into the fire. Is that right? His advisors said, yes, king. The king said, look, I see 4 men walking around in the fire. They're not tied up and they're not burned. The 4th man looks like an angel. Then Nebuchadnezzar went to the opening of the hot furnace. He shouted, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, come out, servants of the... Now, see, I'd had an attitude, and I said, I'm not coming out. You come in here. Come out, servants of the Most High God, come here. So Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego came out of the fire. When they came out, the satraps, prefects, governors, and royal advisors crowded around them. They could see that the fire had not burned Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Their bodies weren't burned at all. Their hair was not burned, and their robes were not burned. They didn't even smell as if they'd been near fire. Then Nebuchadnezzar said, praise to... Now you want to praise him. Praise the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Their God has sent his angel and saved his servants from the fire. These 3 men trusted their God and refused to obey my command. They were willing to die instead of serving or worshiping any other God. So I now make this law. Anyone from any nation or language or group who says anything against the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego will be cut into pieces, and their house will be destroyed until there's a pile of dirt and ashes. No other God can save his people like this. Then the king gave Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego more important jobs in the province of Babylon. Well, this is the word of the Lord. What do you think about Nebuchadnezzar? Jumping from one conclusion to the next. Put in the comment section what you think. Make sure you follow, like, share, and subscribe. Encourage others to join in with us as we read through the Bible. Hit that arrow and share this video. Other question is, what happened to Daniel? How come Daniel wasn't in that chapter? This is the word of the Lord.